Okay, we're continuing the demonstration of hooking the data logger up to a split system. Now we've already shown how the data logger is hooked up on an outside split system. This particular split system is one of a number of 20-ton systems here at this large facility. The condenser is outside. We'll shoot that here in a minute, but we had the good luck that the electrical disconnect is in the room along with the air handler. In a minute we'll show you where we have placed the temperature sensors for the return air and the supply air. But like I said, we've had the good luck of being able to place the amp probe right in here on the disconnect. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to download the data logger. This data logger has been running for a week now, and actually we had it tied up there out of the way, but we've lowered it down here so we could take a look at it. We're going to download this data logger with the Hobo or Boxcar Onset Computer Corporation software that's in my laptop. So now that we've plugged our data cable into the data logger, we're going to go back to the software here, and we're going to go down to Readout and click Enter. You have to wait for a minute. Now the new USB data loggers download much faster than the old serial data loggers. So if you've got an old serial data logger, don't get upset if it takes a couple of minutes to download. While we're waiting for this to download, you can see where we've got the data logger hanging down here. Again, we had it fastened up above, and I've lowered it for convenience sake here. You can see this wire going up to the amp probe. This wire here, this temperature sensor, goes up to the supply air. As you can see, the maintenance technician has pulled back some of the tape there so we could stick our sensor in there. So we're picking up the supply air temperature. Now the return air probe, we hung that up here on the return air side, and you can see the probe sticking out. I think we can zoom up in there to show you that. Now we assured ourselves before we decided where to hang that it was in an area where there's a good bit of airflow, and when the air handler is running, the sensor is moving around quite a bit. So we have the air handler off right now because it's very noisy. After the data downloads, I'm going to use the Boxcar software to export the data into an Excel spreadsheet, and then I'm going to examine it. And before I go outside and put the ice cold into the system, I'm going to assure myself that I've collected good baseline data, because after I add the ice cold to the condensing unit outside, I can no longer get baseline data. So we'll do that in a moment. While it's downloading again, it usually takes 4 or 5 minutes to download the data. There's 10,000 some odd data points, and it does take a little while to download. Okay, now we've downloaded the data, and you can see this OK on here on the software. And always remember to unplug the data cable from the data logger before you click that OK. There's all sorts of ways to accidentally lose your data that you've spent a week collecting. So we're going to go ahead and go OK here. Now again, following the instructions on the software, we are going to save this properly in a separate file. It's the 19th. And I usually try to add some sort of note on the file where I can remember what it was. Now we're going to save this. And of course, again, according to the instructions, we need to tell it what to save. We're going to save the amps, the temperature in Fahrenheit. That's the supply temperature, and the return air temperature in Fahrenheit. I don't bother with the Celsius. Okay, now we've saved the data, and we can see just visually there that it looks like we've got good data from the 11th to the 19th. Now we're going to go up and again, just following the software instructions, we're going to go up here and we're going to export this data into an Excel spreadsheet. And very simply, you're going to find you're going to have to change the name of the file again. When you go to save it, scratch that, you don't do that. Now I'm going to hit export. One thing I always check here is include serial number of the data logger in the export. You always want that. Again, at arm's length for the customer, we want to make sure that the customer can see that, that this is his data. And normally I have a witness on hand. Again, for arm's length credibility. In this case, this customer has already seen all the data logger proof he wants to see, so we're just here today for demo purposes. We'll change the name of the Excel spreadsheet as we like. Put the proper date on here. Hit save. Okay, we've now saved the data to an Excel spreadsheet. The next thing we need to do is open Excel and look at the data and make sure that it's complete. All the data points are there, nothing's missing. Like I said, once we go outside and put the ice cold into the condensing unit, our opportunity for developing a baseline is gone. And we've successfully read the data from the data logger. That's the baseline data. So now what we're going to do is we're going to reinitialize the data logger. We're going to relaunch it. Again, following the software directions, we're going to plug the serial cable into the data logger. And then we're going to go up here to the logger. And we're going to select launch. Connecting to the logger, and I always watch the launching process. The first thing we want to do here is to enter a proper date of the launch. One of the things that's real easy to do is to relaunch the logger using the original launch date, and you will end up with overwriting your last file. Now we'll save it, or start it, start the logger. And it's asking me if I really want to do that. Here we can watch the logger and make sure it launches properly. And now we've got the good message. Again, we need to remember to unplug the logger. And we're now finished relaunching the logger. The next thing we'll do is to treat the system with the ice-cold synthetic catalyst.